Welcome everybody to this week's edition of In the Ring with the Jew and the Fat Man. We no longer have a fat man. We now have with us a guest co-host. Connie over here has been gracious enough to been helping me out the last couple of weeks, and we decided that today we were going to start a brand new show. And to kick off today, I want everybody to say hello to Connie. And Connie, please say hello to my 6 listeners.
Hey guys, my name's Connie, but I'm actually, as you guys have known me, my character in the ring is Cordelia Crush, but this is just me. This is me. My name is Connie Tanky, and I'm going to be helping out my buddy Dave.
That's right.
Because, yes, obviously you've seen some of the interviews. I'm a little mean to you.
But
on the outside, he's a very close, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Love him dearly.
Yes. You know what? When we get into the ring, things are different.
Yep.
Cordelia, you know something?
You can call me Connie now.
I can call you Connie now, but when you're Cordelia and you see me working in the ring, that's a whole nother story, because I don't lose.
Well, actually, come to think of it, I do know you had a little bit, because as I said, we are friends. You had a little bit of a rough week.
Oh boy, did I have a rough week.
Which, in retrospect, has caused some of the stuff to go on.
That's for the rough week.
Would you mind if maybe I could interview Dave King? Get to know a little bit and see if you're alright with talking about some of the stuff that happened.
Well, it's not what I had in mind. I thought we sat down and went through all what we were going to do. But you know what? It is your first time co-hosting. You know what?
The listeners, because
let's see what you got.
I'm good. I'm glad, because I think this could help the listeners. Because a lot of people have trouble realizing that who you are in the ring is not who you are on the outside. Because as I've said before, I have 2 children. I'm a single mother.
Yes,
but in the ring, all I am is an ass kicker. Yes, so far all I have wrestled is men. Mm-hmm. Hopefully one day a woman can come forward, because I'd love to wrestle.
If they have the cojones.
I've seen a lot of independent shows. I've seen wrestlers, and there are some women. I assure you, Nia Jax could whoop me up and down the ring. But I would love one day for someone to. But I would love to interview the great Dave King.
Ooh, great. Sure. Let me hear what you have, because this is...
So if I do touch a subject, though, you can tell me, not right.
But
I'd like you to be
afraid. As my first former co-host and I had a rule on 2 things that we didn't discuss. It doesn't matter which ones they are, because those were ones that we have to. I doubt you are going to touch those, and if you do, I will just say that's one of them.
Okay.
So you can only screw up on 2 questions today.
Okay. Well, I'm an overachiever. You might get 3. I don't know.
Okay.
That's funny. All right. Well, speaking of, obviously, you brought up, your first co-host.
Yes.
So I would like, I guess I should ask first, what was and what happened to the Jew and the Fat Man with I assume, from what I understand,
the
you guys...
Fat Man and the Jew.
Yes, It was the Fat Man and the Jew before you turned it to the Jew and the Fat Guy.
Right.
Now, this said Fat Man is... I haven't had personal issues with him. He's been very sweet to me.
Yes, you know him well.
I do. He's also, every time I see him, big smile, very nice man. I've never had an issue with him myself.
Right.
His name is Kaz.
Yes. BKP Productions.
Yes, very, very sweet man to me personally.
Yes.
Like I said, he's been nothing but gracious and humble to me. So, what
do you want to know?
Well, obviously it was the Fat Man and the Jew. What happened to the Fat Man and the Jew? That it became the Jew and the Fat Guy, and you seem to change over a little.
Well, I'm going to give you the bad person answer, and then I'll give you the long version David Klein, Dave King answer. The bad answer is we had creative difficulties.
That does happen from time to time to go.
And that would end the conversation.
Okay.
All right. And that's the that's the professional answer. But I really do want to give you a shot at being, a good host. And this is a show about independent wrestling, and I do want people to answer me strongly. So I will elaborate a little bit. I know Kaz since he's 16.
Wow.
All right. He's friends with both my boys. He's been to my house, and quite frankly, I treat him like a brother, like a son.
Yeah.
Now, I also had, we were talking earlier about me being on the HIV incident. I don't want to get too much into it, but how I grew through it. I lost a cousin of mine, and I owed my cousin some money for some transactions that I did when I was younger.
Aha.
Okay, and I now owed him $700.
Oh,
And I had to go to my first cousin and go, I just got beat. I don't have the money. And he looked at me and he said, you're my cousin and I love you dearly. You owe me $700. Business is business.
Of course.
And he actually let me work it off a little bit. We did some barter. He gave me a little bit of time. I was able to pay him off. I mean, he wasn't a leg breaker by any means. As a matter of fact, I told you I met him through the HIV epidemic. So, it's it was just what was going, like they said in the movie Blow, if you bought it or sold it, it probably came from me. Well, then him and I had hands in hand.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, hey, it was years ago. It was the 80s. All right, I told you it was a long version.
The 80s is almost over.
How
long ago now?
Way too long.
People say 10 years ago, I think the 90s.
The 90s. So, that lesson from my cousin taught me throughout the rest of my life that family is family and business is business.
Absolutely.
So, Kaz and I had a conversation at a very low point in my life, and I needed some time to reflect and reorganize, and I took off for a while.
Yeah, as anyone would.
And Kaz went on and said, can I go do my own thing?
Yeah.
Do I have my blessings? Yes. We had a personal argument. Doesn't matter. We argued over shoelaces. All right? I wanted green, he wanted red. So we argued over shoelaces when we were both in a very bad mood. And we went from go your own way to distance yourself. And during the time that I was running the next version of my show, when I finally came back, I always promoted him. Now, what recently happened, which actually turned out to be a good thing, because people were telling me to reconcile with him, and I went, fuck you, I'm older. Sorry, respect is respect. And I'm not saying that I didn't disrespect him at all. I did. But I'm older. Sorry, you don't have to agree with me. It was the way I was brought up. You respect your elders.
Okay.
And I felt that I deserve some more level of respect. So with that being said, we just stopped talking to each other.
Okay.
We didn't have any more words than that. We didn't have any other fighting. We stopped associating with each other because, I didn't have time to be involved with the show. He was going to go do the other show.
Yeah.
All right. Then, fast forward, how we ended up getting back together was he was involved with Village Connection Radio, and he had his show on there. And I posted something I actually posted Kaz's show on my page. And I made a comment that was negative. But it could be perceived by 99.9% of the whole entire world that I was giving a shot, and I would agree with everybody except me. Because I wasn't giving him a shot, I was giving the station a shot. Now, I apologize also for giving the station a shot, but I'll talk about that if you ask me, because it's a very long, stressful week.
Well, I was going to say after you follow this, I was actually going to ask you about...
Right, because it all ties in together. Well, Kaz, a mutual friend of ours, intervened, and the phones rang, and Kaz and I have now spoken, and we are working on becoming comfortable with each other again. I have always wished him luck. He has always wished me nothing but happiness. And I am a turn the page type of person, where some people, and Kaz is more of a hold the grudge. Now, I'm saying this to be seen. If I am mistaken, then Kaz, you have an outlet in an area where you can rebuttal anything that I said. I say this with love and and humbleness. Yeah, no, did I get caught up in a lot of things this last week that forced me to go into directions? Yes. Did I get forced into making decisions that I had to do 4 months ago, 5 months ago? Yes. But here we are, and that's all I have to say about Kaz. How about a box of chocolate?
Well, I can also vouch that, as I said, we are personal. Also, on the outside, we are friends. And I can honestly vouch, I don't think I've ever heard you say one negative thing about him.
No.
I'm not trying to butter anybody up.
No. You know Kaz very well. I've heard he's never said anything bad about me.
No, not
at all.
He's a very...
He said nothing about me.
To be honest.
Right. He didn't
not being mean, but...
Yeah, no.
Every time I see Kaz, he's just a very sweet man to me.
I know...
Right.
This industry and this independent area that we all work in is very tight knit. Do not be surprised. Everybody knows when I wipe my ass. It's amazing. I can't believe the shit people find out about me and I feel like a nobody. So,
right,
what's your next question?
Well, now that we got some of that, speaking of which, Jim Savali.
Ooh.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know this man. So I am just the interviewer. But I seem to know there's some very tense air around that name. But I just wanted to ask in a way to remove any stigma. What happened between you and Jim Savali in the most PG, Mr.
Oh,
Mr.
I would,
King.
yes. No.
PG, Mr.
Okay.
King. I am a lady.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Though some don't believe it, I am a woman.
You are all woman, lady. Let me tell you something. There is no question in my mind, and I have to get permission to make sure I don't cross the line with what I want to talk about, your spider web.
Well, anyways, back to this.
Yeah.
Jim Savali.
Okay, so, I was telling somebody yesterday that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I broke that rule.
I was about to say, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
Yes, and I broke
As
that.
a friend.
And I broke that. I broke my own rule. And I was in a bad way, and a lot of things were happening outside of that, and people were getting offended. And where I crossed the line was that I took wrestling heat that was kayfabe to people who didn't understand that. Marks versus pros is kayfabe. They do what they do to irritate the shit out of people. And
Well, isn't that kind of in a way a professional heckle?
that's what they do, and you know what? I mean,
I've had my run-ins with them.
Listen. I'm scared shit because I got back in the group after I got kicked off the group, and I had an incident with Frank Goodman, who I hope he turns the page, or I hope he knows that I was. There's a fine line I'm learning as an amateur and trying to weasel my way into this inner circle, because I'm not going in through a wrestler, I'm coming in as a fan. And you get guys who are, we'll get back to Jim, you get guys who don't understand that I'm trying to play the game, and I'm telling everybody now I'm trying to play the game, and they go, hey, listen, man, there's no rules. It's a no DQ match. It's uncensored. And you go back and you play their game, and you end up getting squashed. So with Jim sort of got caught up while I was in the heat of that.
Okay.
And Jim wanted to try getting involved in wrestling, and Jim, as he says, I'm here to run a business.
Yes.
I'm not here to run a wrestling organization of things, because it's not beneficial, because my customers don't appreciate that. Tommy Dreamer, when he chopped me, and he's right here. It was one of my first signatures, Tommy Dreamer. He said, in the ring with the Hebrew and the fat guy. And I asked him why. And he said, because I was up for a part in a movie, in a TV show, to play a wrestler. And they looked at one of my old matches, and they saw me pile drive Beulah. and they thought that that was too much against his characteristic. For the bad guy, it was like worse than the bad guy than they wanted.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, truth be known, that was his wife. All right. They had practiced that a zillion times. They're still married. They have 3 kids. His daughter's actually an actress.
Yeah.
She was in The Sopranos. Tommy Dreamer's daughter was in The Sopranos. Did you know that?
My third cousin is Lorraine Bracco. Karen from The Sopranos, by the way.
Karen! You can get me to meet Karen?
Well, she doesn't live around here.
I'll travel.
It was.
We got to get back to
God rest him, my father.
Yes.
He died in December, which is. I took a break actually from wrestling for a little bit for those reasons. You always got to take a break.
Well, that's when I interview you.
Yeah, and then, but yeah, I mean, like I said, that's my third cousin.
That's your third cousin
Found
twice.
that out, and I was like, we went to a family reunion, and I was like, isn't that okay?
Wow.
Now you're back to your
Yeah, okay.
I always thought that was weird to me.
That's it, yeah. So, so Jim and I are getting back to understanding that Dave King is not Dave Klein. And yes, David Klein is very protective towards his loved ones and his friends.
Yeah.
And you know me personally. If I got you back, I got you back. I may not be the best back to have because I'm an old back. I'm an old board against the back, but you know I'll stand there for you. And I have a very mean streak, sarcastic
Everyone
part
has
of
a
me.
Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, but you know what? My evil twin brother, when he gets a little pissed off, he ends up going overboard, and he doesn't care about hitting the send button. And then when he gets back into hiding, and then the other guy comes out, and he's like, "Fuck, you really did do that. All right, you know, like not." And I'm not giving myself any excuses and saying that I don't take credit for what I did. I blatantly knew what I was saying and doing. It was calculated, premeditated, and it was wrong, and I try to better myself each time as a person, and I'm not wussing out on what I said. I'm just saying I shouldn't have done it. Let's not confuse how I feel and what I did.
Well, it's kind of a scenario. Your grandma makes you a really big dinner and it tastes horrible. You're not going to say, "Grandma, this is horrible, give me something else." You're like, "Yeah, it's wonderful." Some things you just don't say, no matter if they're true or not. Sometimes it's not someone's place to say it, but if they're not true, some people say things that are just cruel because they're angry. And it's what makes everyone human. But the fact you admit, was it wrong?
Was it wrong for me to do it?
Yes.
I live with no regrets. Ask Lex Luger.
Let me rephrase that. Did you know that maybe you shouldn't have said that?
I definitely paused my finger a couple of times before I pushed that send button. Yes, I did fight. Yes, it was a fight inside of me, without a doubt. I blatantly knew the bullshit salesman guy who is in customer service who needs to kiss ass and does it quite well was fighting with that little kid inside of me saying "fuck you." And that guy turned around, and as one guy was holding my wrist and the other one was taking my finger, I finally looked at myself and I went, "Well, I've gone this far, what else do I have to lose?" And I still thought it was wrestling. That was my justification.
Okay.
You know, and I deleted all the posts that I put there, and I think I got my point across. And I hope that I never have to defend friends like that again. And I would also like to say to Jim, if in my opinion, if the shoe was on the other foot and I felt somebody was doing to you, I'd say the same thing about them that I did, maybe different scenarios. So I apologize to you, and I am sorry for what I did in getting involved and sticking my nose in something that wasn't my business, but I did that because of how I felt. I would do it for you, and I would do it against the other person as well if I felt that way. So that's as close to an apology as I can give.
Okay, so how about I bring up, actually I want to ask about somebody
Uh-oh.
who I actually have met a few times, who's very sweet as well to me. Still, when I mention him, he's, you're going to understand. Mr. Big. John Moore.
Mr. Big!
I love him, I'm going to point it out. He's always such a sweetheart to me. Again, his birthday passed, the
Yes.
other week. So even though I said to him, I'm going to say it again, happy belated birthday, shout out to that,
There
because
you
you are
go.
a very sweet man. You have been nothing but kind and nice to me. But Mr. Big,
Mr. Big, there are two people that have helped me live this amateur fantasy character that I have.
yeah,
Number one is Dan Romano, and number two is John Wall, Mr. Big.
okay,
So I met Mr. Big roughly in 1993. He was working for Frank Goodman. During that time while I met him, you were 4.
I was 4 years old. man.
4. Yeah, I know. That's right.
Anyway.
Yes. Well, hey, listen. I've been called old. It's okay. I got.
You're older.
Just because I'm 55 doesn't mean that I haven't been taking care of myself in the last couple of years. I went back to the gym. I've been training, and
Hey, I'm 28, and I bet you're in a hell of a lot better shape now. Even though I wrestled, I still got a ways to go.
I would say you were probably stronger than me, but my cardio is probably better than yours.
Absolutely.
Which means that
But I'm getting there.
Which means that if I fuck with you, I can run faster than you or longer.
The girl I beat up when I was 21 thought
Yeah.
the same thing. She said, "You can't catch me, fatta." And before she finished, I already had her on the curb.
Yeah. You know what my father used
Never
to say?
underestimate someone.
My father was a very big man, 300 pounds. He went, I'm like an elephant. I'll never forget. He says, I ain't going to chase you. You'll be back soon enough.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Big. Okay, so
Love that
Dan Romano and Mr. Big. So I had autographs with Mr. Big. I used to follow his matches, and him and another manager, may he rest in peace, Johnny Diamond. I would hang out with him too, and the two of them had real heat in the back room. Okay, they didn't seem to think that the other person had the level of credibility that they had. All right. Now, I'm not defending either one. I'm not saying which one had more. I'm saying it's now 30 years later, and if you asked me, I'm going to say Mr. Big because it's 30 years later, And Mr. Big is like he's my mentor. But that's how we met. And they were in a tuxedo versus tuxedo match. And I owned a tuxedo store at the time.
Okay.
So my tuxedo was used, which is still on YouTube, in their match.
That's
And
pretty
I
cool.
had a plastic sign saying the name of my tuxedo store, and I had front row tickets standing right behind it.
That's really
and
cool.
they said this tuxedo was donated by David Klein of Rogers Tuxedos of Babylon. It was like this cool advertisement, and the plastic sign got smashed over somebody's head, and they and I loved it. And they all signed the vest.
That's pretty cool.
All right. I had Mr. Big signature, Johnny Diamond. I have Jake Roberts was there at the time. I think one of the Nasty Boys showed up. I got a bunch of signatures on it. I still have it. So now, boom. 30 years later, I decide to get into this shit, and I'm looking through my old pictures, and I see a match, and I see Mr. Big on the match, and I go to Kaz, I go, we're going to a match. And they're introducing Mr. Big, and I have a $20 ticket, and I have a business card in my hand. And I walk down the alley while he's being his character, not knowing who I am, praying that I don't have guys come out of the ring and beat the shit out of me, because I am really just and I'm standing there going, I want you. I want you. And I give him my card, and he looks at my card and goes, throws it in his pocket, calls me the next day, goes, what's up, kid? He goes, what do you want? And I said, I want to give you a picture. It was a picture of him and the late, great Balls Mahoney.
Oh.
All right. And he says, oh, let me take a picture with my camera. I got to stop imitating him. He'll kick my fucking ass. He says, let me take a picture of it. And I said, no, the picture's for you to keep. And then I proceed. Now, so I bribed him.
Yeah.
And I showed him a picture of me when we were back then. The picture that I actually did have that he autographed. So it's not like I was full of shit.
Yeah.
And I told him about my concept about how I wanted to do this show. And he said, whatever you need to do to help me, I will help you. I'm involved with ECPW right now. and he got me involved in ECPW, which I have been able to go in and do what I do when I'm being the Jew.
And I actually got to accompany you on that one.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I had an absolute blast.
That was, yeah.
It was wonderful people,
yes.
great, like phenomenal show. They threw out such a good show.
You have
They are
been,
very entertaining.
I want to switch around just a little bit because this comes to my mind, and I wanted to ask you this question today. So, you have now entered a third realm of the wrestling industry, the photojournalistic side of it. Totally different than being a wrestler in the locker room or a fan in the seat.
A fan in the seat is totally like, you just don't see when you see behind the scenes, whether you, just in both spectrums, wrestling and journalism, it's very intimidating because I'm at like the lowest rank behind all these people. We went and I got to interview them on a journalistic level, and you just get to know these people besides what's in that ring. Some of them you get to interview and you get their characters. Then you get to talk to them, behind the scene, and it's just, everyone has a story. It's amazing, and me myself, like I said, I'm at the lowest ring of it, but I have kids, I have a background. These people, they're so nice. You never get to really talk to these people, but when you get to talk to them in a journalistic sense, you learn things about them. How some of these people, you never think half the things. Some of them are going through their own battles, but all those people go through all these things in their personal lives as the people they are, and then they get in the ring and they just kick ass. Like I said, we went to the show together, and I got to interview some of these people with you, and then I get to see them in the ring, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, it's amazing.
When you are donning your own tights, because I have watched you get ready to practice,
yes,
and I've watched you do work in the ropes and learn your bumps and do all your stuff, you are too busy worrying about Cordelia Crush. When you walk in as a photojournalist, you are looking at a scene and watching what's going on. And I want to tell the world something. I'm gonna make you break right now. All right. I introduced her to Gene Snitsky, and I saw a 6-year-old girl look at a 6'8" monster, and I go, "Would you like to take a picture of him?" And she went, "No."
For everyone who doesn't realize, I'm also 5'2".
And I felt, and Jean sort of giggled, but the good news is that at the end of the night, she felt so much more comfortable, and she was actually able to have a little bit of a conversation.
Damn,
with
if I wasn't wearing makeup, I'd be like redder than a
She'd
tomato.
be, oh yeah,
No, like he was such a sweetheart, but it's just like he was. I didn't know they made people that big. I went out with a man who was 6'7", and I still don't remember him being that close to that big. Like that man that's a wall of a man.
Yes.
Nice man, amazing kick-ass in the ring.
A very smart man if you look up his credentials.
I spoke to him and just having a conversation. Yes. Oh my goodness, very intelligent man. And it's funny because you see him in the ring just like this huge wall of a man. And then you speak to him and you're just like, it's amazing.
And he loves the kids.
Oh yes, very nice, sweet man.
So.
But yes, I did. I was like, no, I'm okay. He even asked me, "Why are you shy?" I'm like, no, that's just a really big human.
But I got to tell you something, and here's a promise I'm going to make to you. If you come with me 3 more times, you'll be like, "Hey, what's up, bro?" And you'll be hugging them, and you'll be, it's all good.
I don't know if I'll be hugging that guy Cal there.
Oh, Cal.
He's a little flirtatious.
Cal liked you. My boy from Texas, man, shout out to Big Cal Stevens, man. He wanted a piece of you. He likes them white BBWs.
I actually was born in San Antonio, and that's when he was like, "Oh, you're from Texas?" Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I had a boyfriend.
Yeah, that's all.
As far as he knows, I still have a boyfriend.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. See that? Oh, that's one of the side rules that we do. This is not part of one of the two. We tend to keep a lot of our. We talk a little bit about our family, but we keep our personal lives out, so nobody on the ring has to hear it, because there's some people out there that will exploit the shit out. So make sure you say whatever you want to, that you ain't afraid of it.
Oh, I'm never afraid to say anything. You should know me by now.
Okay.
I know what I can and can't say. There are certain things.
Can I say you have big tits?
can I say you're probably not blind then? And those glasses are working then? Thanks.
Okay, back to our show.
Anywho.